Latitude 0, longitude 0. Speaking from the center of the world, Ghana. This is where we are. This is the center of Pan-Africanism. Moving black people forward, uniting us on the same platform, telling the stories that concerns us. Boom! Zo TV Talking Points. Do not change the dial. Stay tuned.
Boom, boom, boom. Yeah. Today is going to be a different day. Why is it going to be a different day? There's this whole misconception, confusion in the minds of people about this hair, Rasta. So we're going to go into the classroom, educate ourselves. You educate me too on the public or on the comment section. You know, let's just learn. So I have a brother with me in the house. And the brother is gonna go with me on a journey on Rastafari. So stay tuned. Do not change the dial. The frequency is Zo TV. But before we go on, I'll let the brother introduce himself. My man.
Yes,
introduce yourself, my man.
Greetings. My name is Priest Dean. I'm a member of the Ethiopia Africa Black International Congress, which is also known as the Bobo Shanti tradition of Rastafari.
Bobo Shanti.
The Bobo Shanti.
Okay.
Tradition of Rastafari.
Alright.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, man.
And to shed light, to educate the people about Rastafari. It's an honor and a privilege.
Yeah.
To share such a rich cultural and historical, moment, and of a movement that was inspired, by Marcus Messiah Garvey and His Imperial Majesty Haile Selassie.
Okay.
Yeah, so
where do you come from originally?
Well, originally I'm from Jamaica, from Kingston, Jamaica.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
What brought you to Africa?
Listen, my journey into the Rastafari tradition is what opened my eyes to Africa.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
All right.
So opened my eyes to Africa, and through the works of Marcus Messiah Garvey,
Okay.
and on him telling us that you cannot give up a continent for an island.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we have to understand that Africa is a place of creation of civilization.
Yeah, man.
Right? And he said that we are the children of Africa, and it's our ultimate destiny to return back home, because he said the white man have his land, the Chinaman have his land, the Indian man have his land, but so where's a black man now? Yeah. So we know that the continent is the black man's land. So in Rastafari tradition, Africa is our heaven, it's our Zion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which country was the first country you came to when you went into Rastafari and you wanted to discover Africa? Which country?
Ghana was my first.
Which year?
I came to Ghana in 1998.
1998?
Yes.
I think that time Rawlings was still in...
Rawlings was in power, and it was funny enough because in 1997, Flight Lieutenant J.J. Rawlings came to Jamaica.
Okay.
During the Emancipation celebration in Jamaica on the 1st of August.
Okay.
So I was at Bobo Hill, that's what it's called, in 10 miles Blue Bay, St. Thomas, Jamaica, right?
Okay.
And then we had a delegation that went to greet him. So we were there, we were drumming, chanting, and we was listening to him give a speech. And he was talking about, the relationship between the Jamaicans and the Ghanaians, and how we share the same heritage.
Okay.
Because, during our studies, we get to find out that Ghana had one of the largest slave ports, or the largest forts in West Africa. They had the most forts in West Africa. So majority of our ancestors that was kidnapped and taken away as prisoners of war came through Ghana. Okay. Right? And then in that understanding and that knowledge, he was sharing about the father, the first president of Ghana, which is Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. Yeah. And the works that he did with Pan-Africanism, and also his influence of Marcus Garvey, because he was a Garveyite. He studied Marcus Garvey and his Pan-African works. Yes. And then he incorporated that into his political movement and in his own philosophies.
Yeah.
So when he was given the history of Kwame Nkrumah, given the history of Ghana, the slave trade, it's something that struck a chord with me.
Okay.
Right? And then he further went to say that Ghana is the gateway
to Africa.
Okay. Right? Now, for me as a Bobo Shanti, I'm a priest in the order of Bobo Shanti.
Okay.
And in our tradition and learning the history of Africa, right, we were told about the gateway to Africa, and Ghana is one of our entry points.
Okay.
Back into Africa.
Yeah.
So when he came and he spoke, and I heard him speak so eloquently and so passionately about Ghana and about Kwame Nkrumah.
That's what got you.
It got me. Yeah. So that following year, right, in March of 1998, which was Ghana independence.
Yeah.
And also March 1st is the Ethiopia Africa Black International Congress. Also, that is our foundation day as well.
Yeah.
So, we came to Ghana. There was a trade fair. I don't know if they still do the trade fair now.
They don't do it anymore.
Right.
The trade fair does not even exist anymore.
Right. So there was a trade fair at that time.
Yeah.
And on our way here traveling, it was only 5 people of melanated skin, black people that was on the plane. Everybody else was foreigners, Indian, Lebanese, Chinese, Europeans. They were all these. I'm like, how come these people are on this plane going to Africa and I don't see a lot of our people?
Yes.
So, it was really, really eye-opening for me.
Okay.
Just to understand that, we hear so much propaganda
about Africa. And then when you jump on the plane, you see the people who's
spreading the propaganda
on the plane to Africa.
Yeah.
Boom! You hear that? You hear that? Okay, my brother, continue. Yeah. So that is the inspiration of Jerry John Rawlings was part of the whole thing to
for me.
To come to Africa.
Right. And then in the Rastafari tradition, all we speak about is Africa.
Yeah.
Because we were taken as captives, and we always wanted to return home. Because we see Africa as the breadbasket of the world, Africa as our Garden of Eden, Africa as a center of creation of civilization. Yeah. So the tenets of one of the biggest tenets of Rastafari is the repatriation of black people from the diaspora to return back home to the motherland. And even if you read the Bible, there's a verse in the Bible that says that every vine has to return to its own vine or fig tree. Right? So Africa for the Africans, Europe for the Europeans, India for the Indians, Asia for the Asians. So we as African people have to return home back to the continent.
Let's go back to Jamaica a little bit and go to Rastafari in Jamaica.
Yes.
That is, give us a bit of history about how come Rastafari, who wake up one day and decided that, I want to let my people go into this spiritual path, versus knowing that almost every slave that was taken away from West African coastline, they were all Christianized.
Yes.
They were all Christianized, and when you got onto the other side, the Christianity continued.
Of course.
How come Rastafari?
Well, how Rastafari was manifested. We say that's something that was from creation, right? But the name itself just transitioned from that time to now, right? So for me, the origins of Rastafari in Jamaica started from Marcus Garvey.
Okay.
It started from Marcus Garvey because Marcus Garvey came out and he said, we must look to the east for the coming of a black king. He said all these different nations have their king, have their God. We as black people don't have. And at that time, the coronation of His Imperial Majesty, Emperor Haile Selassie, on November 2nd, 1930, was a pivotal moment for black people.
Yeah.
That's when the shift happened, because now we've seen a black man being crowned as a king.
Okay.
Where all these different nations came down to honor him.
Yeah.
Right? And then when we see the title that he came under as the conquering Lion of the tribe of Judah, the Kings of Kings, the Lord of Lords. If you read the Bible, you see that these titles were in the Bible. So for us, it gave us this awakening, like, okay, so what they were teaching us in Christianity about a white savior that came to save us, and this white image that we are supposed to bow down and worship, it's not true. We have something that's in alignment with us.
Okay.
That we could see ourselves through.
Okay.
You know, because it's hard to look at your God through somebody else's spectacles.
Yeah. I think I want to first get it from how did the name itself came about.
Right.
Because even though yes, you want to sort of like break away from the Christian spirituality and go into something else, there has to be, how did the name came about?
Yes.
We want the audience to understand the meaning of Rastafari.
Understood. Yeah. So, like I said, the Genesis started with Marcus Garvey, because without Marcus Garvey, there wouldn't have been any attention or any information about this that was coming around. So when Marcus Garvey gave the call and said, "You must look to the east for the coming of a black king," and at the same time, there was a coronation of Haile Selassie, which was his coronation name, right?
Yeah.
His name was Ras, which is a title.
Okay.
Right? Ras is a title.
Ras is a title.
A title like a head or a governor.
Okay.
Right? His name was Tafari Makonnen.
Okay.
That was his born name.
That is the original name of Emperor Haile Selassie.
Yes.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So Tafari means creator.
All right.
That was the meaning of the word Tafari. So when it was formulated, we said Rastafari, which in turn means head creator.
Head creator.
Right.
Okay.
So in 1930, when Marcus Garvey was given the call and Haile Selassie was coronated, there was this rise in Jamaica because we were tired of the colonial rule.
Yeah.
Right. We were tired of the colonial rule. So Rastafari was really, how you would call it, a rebellious movement that was formed to go against the colonial rule that was going on in Jamaica at that time.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So you have the people that was considered poor, considered uneducated, which was the one that was downtrodden by the society or by the colonial masters, was tired. So it's like you had certain grassroots leaders that was now listening, that was actually part of Marcus Garvey movement.
Yeah.
Right? Because Marcus Garvey was rising on that Pan-African mindset. So out of that Pan-African mindset, right, coming in now with the coronation of His Imperial Majesty Haile Selassie, it kind of merged itself into its own type of movement, where we see different people at that time that was fighting against colonialism, fighting against the colonial powers, right, trying to uplift the poor and have-nots and address the concerns of the poor and have-nots, started to formulate what we see now as Rastafari.
All right. So now Rastafari, I know that when there is any group like this that takes the stance of fighting colonialism and how do you call it, all the powers that it takes to suppress black people, those black people will revolt.
Yes.
What gave birth to the different types of Rastafari? Because I'm thinking that if we're all fighting for one good cause, and Rastafari has been now, all of a sudden, you hear some Rastas say that I'm Bobo Shanti.
Yeah.
Some Rastas say I am Nyayabingi.
Yeah.
Some Rastas say I am 12 tribes.
EWF.
Yes. So are we not still going into another division again? Or I want to understand what is Bobo Shanti and what is Nyayabingi and what, break it down.
Right. So, that's a very good question, right? And everything started as one collective.
Yeah.
Right? Because everybody was talking Haile Selassie Rastafari. What happened in Jamaica, there was a place called Bakawal in Jamaica, which is in Spanish Town.
Okay.
Right? So Bakawal, that's where the hub, the Rastafari hub began. You had people like Leonard Howard, Prince Emmanuel, Charles Edwards. You had all these different people that were under one umbrella at the time. Right? What happened was one of the prime ministers at that time, which was Alexander Bustamante, right? you know, when they heard about the Rastafari movement rising and about, you know, the message that was being spread and about the revolutionary, you know, messages that was being brought forth through the Rastafari movement, you know, they sent an army to go and bulldoze Bakawa.
Okay.
So that was like the central hub. So imagine you're here, and this is where everyone gathered to meet and discuss and formulate ideas. And now the government came and said, we're destroying this place.
Okay.
So when they destroyed the place, now people started to scatter to different parts of the island.
All right.
There are some people that went to the east, that went up into the hills. There are some people that went to the south. There are some people went to the north. There are people that they scattered. So when they scattered naturally, people started to form different houses.
Okay.
That's what we call it, our mansions. That's what we would call it.
Yeah.
And just to kind of give it a kind of a similar analogy, it would be like Christianity.
Mm-hmm.
You have, they're all talking about Christ.
Yeah.
But then you have
Methodist, Anglican, you have Presby.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Which, during all these different branches, that everyone might take on a different, or add a different kind of nuance to that belief.
Yeah.
So like for me, as a Bobo Shanti, you know, we observe the Sabbath day.
Okay, so who is a Bobo Shanti?
So Bobo Shanti is what we call the priestical order of Rastafari, the churchical order of Rastafari. We have
the churchical order.
The churchical order, you know,
of Rastafari.
Of Rastafari. In our tradition, it's more geared within a certain principle of like a church type setting, right?
Okay.
Where you have a priest, you have a prophet, right? You have certain protocols when it comes to how you carry up and minister a service, right?
If I want to bring it to Bobo Ashanti, then that means that there's some fire in Bobo Ashanti.
Yes.
Yeah, that is the meaning of Bobo in Ghana. Yeah, in a Kam language.
And that's something new. That's something new that I learned, and I'm glad that you give that explanation because it makes sense.
Yeah.
It makes sense within the similarities of what.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's interpreted that.
So when I heard of Bobo Ashanti the first time, I sort of like thought that there is an Akan connection.
Yeah.
Where the people have not forgotten their back like that. There's something still in there.
Yeah.
And so do you see any link between the African spirituality and Bobo Ashanti? Because now that everything is very churchy, that means that your fundamentals are all still very Christian fundamentals. Yeah. And does that also defeat the purpose? Because when you are trying to get away from your colonial master and you hold his spirituality, and you don't have much of your spirituality from Africa in there, what connection do you see Bobo Ashanti with African spirituality?
Right. So even though the Christianity is really based, because like you said earlier, you know, because of the colonization and the what the European colonial masters was implementing as Christianity was a bastardized version of Christianity. Because if you check the history of Ethiopia, Christianity been in Ethiopia way long before it reached the places of Rome and all these places. So even in Ethiopia, Christianity is of a Coptic, a more
it's different.
Organic.
Organic.
Right? It's not how we see the westernized version of Christianity is. Right? They have Bibles and different books of the Bibles that's not even in this King James version of the Bible.
Okay.
So because of us being taken away and brought here, Christianity is something that was used as a weapon against us, and then we turn around and weaponize it back for our own liberation.
Okay.
Right? So even in our tradition, we don't talk about white Christ. There's no room for white Jesus.
Okay.
In
Bobo Ashanti.
In Bobo Ashanti.
Okay.
It's not within the same principle or guidelines of how the regular Christian people will visualize Christianity. Because for us, we believe in a black Messiah.
Okay.
Which Haile Selassie, who came back as a reincarnation of Christ himself, that's the basic tenets belief of Rastafari itself.
Okay. So if you want to equate it, that means that the European Christ is Emperor Haile Selassie in Rastafari.
Correct.
Okay.
If you want to equate it to give it
if you want to give
it a more, make it more understandable for people who don't understand Rastafari. That's what it equates to. Right? In the Bobo Ashanti principles, we talk about the Trinity.
Okay.
Right? Which the Trinity in other mansions might not be mentioned. In our Trinity, we have Marcus Garvey Honorable Marcus Garvey, who was considered to be the prophet, the forerunner.
Okay.
Right, who came in to alert and wake up the people of the coming. Right? And then we talk about Prince Emmanuel, who was our teacher, our leader, who founded the Ethiopia Africa Black International Congress, or the Bobo Shanti tradition. You know, he was the one that came, and now we saw him as the Black Christ, who came to give us back the awakening. Right? And then we see His Imperial Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie as the Godhead, the one that sits on the throne to govern and rule the world. So within that Trinity, that's what formulated us in our principles of how we live, of how we educate ourselves, or how we see ourselves as Black people in the West who wants to return back to Africa.
Let's move to Nyabingi. My own small research that I do on Rastafari, as I don't know, I might be wrong, but I think that I find most people in Nyabingi that has a lot of closeness to African spirituality. And it makes me wonder, how come you guys have the same sort of fundamentals, but they sort of have more of like the voodoo spirit?
The Nyabingis was also a faction of Rastafari when the split came. You know, you had people come and say that they're Nyabingi warriors. So through the music, through the drumming, you know, through the protocols, they're more of a warrior type.
Warrior type.
Vibration. In energy. Right? For me, African spirituality is throughout everything in Rastafari. It's just that we don't see it in that way because African spirituality was demonized in the West. So in anything to do with African spirituality, when it comes to Rastafari, people will kind of downplay, say, oh, because we're thinking about it from a negative connotation. But then when you think about, and if you study African spirituality and then you start mirroring it against Rastafari, you see that there's a lot of similarities. Right? Just that because, you know, we're calling our ancestors because Marcus Garvey is our ancestor. His Imperial Majesty is our ancestor. Prince Emmanuel is our ancestor. Right? So
but it's a known ancestor.
It's a known ancestor. But when we use those terminologies, it might not sound for us appeasing in saying that, oh, we do ancestral worship. You know what I mean? Or that we're pouring libation, or that we have an altar that we set up. And then we pour chants and prayers and praises unto these ancestors that transition, and calling upon them to still come and be a part of our spiritual world and clear barriers and clear paths for us and give us a way to return back.
What is the major difference between Bobo Ashanti and Nyabingi to you?
To me, the only difference is certain nuances. I might say the Trinity, which is comprised of Marcus Garvey, Prince Emmanuel, and Haile Selassie, they might just only revere Haile Selassie as the Godhead and Marcus as a prophet.
So Nyabingi does not believe in the Trinity?
No, not the Trinity in how we believe.
Bobo Ashanti believes in the Trinity, Nyabingi does not believe in the Trinity.
But the foundation of all Rastafari, that we know that Haile Selassie is our Godhead.
Is there any rituals that Bobo Shanti will do that Nyabingi will not do? Or is there any ritual that Nyabingi will do and Bobo Shanti will not do?
For me, the only difference that I'll see is that when we have celebrations, or Nyabingi, which are celebrations, like, you know, the Nyabingi order, they will light a big fire. Right? To burn while Bingi is going on, celebration is going on. In the Bobo Ashanti order, we would not do that. So I see, and we will hold the Sabbath. They don't really adhere. Since of late, there's been transitions and they start calling themselves priests and they start holding the Sabbath. So things kind of transition over the years. But these are some of the only nuances that I see. You know, we wear turban.
You wear turbans.
They won't wear turbans.
You don't wear turbans.
They won't wear turbans.
So
when they have their celebration, when you go into their tabernacle, you know, you have to take off your hat or your turban. When you come into our celebration, if you wear turban, you're okay. If you have on a hat or a tam, you have to remove it. So there's certain nuances that we see. You know, but there's no major difference. It's the same order, but you know, people get caught up in the little
Now, it's good to understand this. If you guys are listening to us from anywhere you are listening to us from, this is Zo TV, and we are trying to talk about Rastafari and the differences in Rastafari. We're talking about Bubu Ashanti, we're talking about Nyaya Bingi, the differences in it. So if you are out there and you are carrying some small dreadlocks on your head and you're walking around thinking that Rasta is just Rasta and that's all, and it's all about just smoking some dope. No, it's deeper than that, okay? Yeah. So stay tuned.
Zo TV talking points. Do not change the dial. Stay tuned.